So what am I going to do now? I'm going to take the app that I just finished, which is now part 3 of the shopping cart series. I'm going to take that and I'm going to upgrade it to part 4. I'm going to include the ability to create customer specific products. And so there's a few different things that are involved with making that process work. And if I go back to here and I show you, yeah, there we go, I came up with an outline. So the first thing that you need to do in order to make this work is I need a customer table, right? And I need a customer products table. So like right now I have a product table, and the idea in my mind is like that's gonna be my master list of products, right? And so I'm gonna create, so in a way that's my blueprint already. So then I'm gonna create customer specific records where I've got a parent that is the customer, and then I've got the customer products where it's basically a clone. I have like one record for every product in the product table. And then like I can go through and delete the ones, maybe I can add some specific ones, I don't even know, whatever. So in order to get there, you got to have a customer table and a customer products table. Once you have those done and installed and integrated into your system, right? Then you can move on to actions, right? And so what do I need? I need an action that will copy a product to the products table. Then I need another action that says, okay, for all of the products, execute the action that I just made, the one that makes the product in the product table and the customer products. So like take all the products and clone them over there. 2 actions to make that happen. Maybe you need more, I don't know. We'll see when we get there. Part 3 is automation. So the idea is, this kind of harkens back to what I was talking about earlier in this stream about serial versus parallel execution of actions. I'm coming at this from the mindset of I'm not going to loop through these things. I want to create them in a way that I can execute them in parallel so that I can say, here's a list of products, however big it is, and just over in, and like automation will do all of that, however many it needs to be, and it'll be really, really fast. That's the way that I'm going. So the build methodology in my mind is parallel execution. And so like when I say in part 2, step 3, that I need to create an action to copy a product to the customer products, when I'm thinking about parallel execution, that's what I'm focused on, is I need a way to where that action, the one that actually makes the clone, I need to be able to execute that in parallel, right? Because then I can say, cool, yeah, however many you got, go at it, Haas. And you've got however many degrees of parallelism that you've got. I got a core, so it does 4 at a time. If you've got an enterprise license, think about that. It does 10 things at once. And then even better, if you got the enterprise license, you can then throw that data inside of a SQL server, which takes data so much faster than the Google Sheet API. And so, like, you know what I mean? It does 10 at once, and the actual data collection system is faster. So like enterprise is like, it's expensive, but it's so worth it. It's not even funny. All right, let's get to it. So part 1, the first thing that we need to do is, this thing should be, yeah, it's done. Okay. First thing that we need to do for our app is we need to add some tables to this thing. So I'm just going to come here and go to the source. We need to do a customers table. So customers, right? And then I need a customer products table, right? And okay, so I'm going to grab my template table, this one. Oops, that guy. There we go. And I'm going to throw it here just because the templates are awesome. Which I guess I need to stop calling them templates because that's a reserved word in AppSheet now. These are auto tables. Gotta get that in my head. Auto tables. So, all right. Little cleanup. Freeze row number 1. This should be page 1. All right, and just a little bit of cleanup on my tables because I am particular. Let's see. Customer. On the customer table, what do I need? I don't need to know, don't need to know, don't need to know, don't need to know, don't really care. Don't need to know, don't need to know, don't really care. Don't need to know, don't need to know, don't need to know, don't really care. Yeah, don't need this either. Yep. And that's basically all I'm going to keep. And I'll keep the sensible ID, but I think this formula doesn't work. I think it's broken. Something inside here, a little code thing breaks the code. One of these forward slashes or a backslash or something breaks the formula. I think it's, yeah, this forward slash. It breaks the system when it tries to encode that when accepting the no parameters. So this needs to be customer ID, right? So we got like customer name. Yup. Fill in the blanks later with anything else that you want. It's not really, you know what I mean? Like when you get to these like high level tables like this, there's not really that much to do. Like that's it. I just need to know what's the name of the category. That's it, customers. And then like in here, this is where it gets a little more. So this is page 1. Page 1. We'll shrink this, group that, bold this. I'm gonna leave customer products just with that. Yeah, same thing here. I don't really care about any of these. They're not that important. Not that important, not that important, not that important. Like, all right. That is the standard workflow that I do whenever I'm starting a table. I use the standard starting template auto table. Gotta come up with a better name for that now. Yeah, that's it. Like, I dump it on here, delete the columns I don't need. So this is gonna be like a customer link. Yeah, so that references it to the customer. So I'm just gonna say customer product link. Yep, customer product product name. Yep, product cost. I guess. Yeah, you can start filling in the blank with everything else that you'd want. That's the general idea, right? Is I reference connect this to the customer, I reference connect this to the product, and then like from the product over here, I have a name, I have an image, I have a description, and a barcode. Okay, so I'm gonna copy those into my customer products table. Right there. And I'm gonna grab my little thing. New keyboard, still trying to get used to it. Customer image product, customer image description, customer product barcode. And make those bold. And same for font. Alright, so the idea is, right, it's link to the customer, link to the product, then we just dereference all that in there, and we can do something specific for this. Some specific piece of information for that. So this is a customer product ID. All right, now that I got my tables made, I'm going to add them to my app. I guess I will enter these really quick. Customer setup. Don't need that one. And then I'll set this one up. This will be customer product setup. And I don't really need that. Actually, no, I think about it, I do kind of need that. I need this to say something like, use this form to enter specific information about a product from a client, from a customer, something of that nature. Okay, now, got the tables made, time to add them to my app. Back to AppSheet, refresh the page. Got to refresh the page in order for AppSheet to catch. It's that you've got new tables. And even then, yeah, see, it didn't catch it. This is a perfect point for a helpful hint. If you ever find yourself in this particular issue, sorry, wait. The thing to do, right? So like I added tables to my data source here, but when I come back to the app, it's not catching that I have new tables. How can I prevent this from, I finally got them. Okay. If you go back and refresh, usually eventually it'll eventually catch up. But there is a trick that you can do that will make this to where you don't ever really have that problem. And that's, you got to keep an extra sheet inside your data source. Literally create an empty sheet, keep it at the end. Don't put anything in it, just leave it empty. The fact that the data source connected to your AppSheet app has this extra table, and that extra table is always there. It's like, I don't know, AppSheet remembers that, and then it makes it easier for when you come back, when you actually add new tables into the mix. It makes it easier for the system, I don't know why, to catch these new tables that you added faster. Like I had to go back and hit refresh twice. Sometimes like I sit up there and I hit that refresh button and hit the button and hit the button, and it's like, it doesn't work. And I'll close the tab, I'll go over to my apps, open a whole new editor screen, doesn't work. Hit refresh, hit refresh, hit refresh, doesn't work. Do a hard refresh, you know what I mean? Control F5, doesn't work. It's like, what can I do? I've been in that scenario where like, okay, and then like the only thing that you got to do is like, all right, I guess I'm going into this thing and I'm going to go into my Google Sheets on my Google Drive, and I'm going to have to dig through the thing and find my sheet that I just added. Having that extra sheet, but even empty a sheet, having that empty sheet in your data source makes it easier for the system, for whatever reason, to detect that you've got new tables faster. Now that I've got my tables here, let's add the first one. It's always nice to start with if you have a parent-child, it's always nice to start with the parent first. So we've got customers, go into the customer setup, and see, I'm gonna change this from a name to a text. I'm gonna make this required. I'm gonna clear that, I don't wanna see it. Now the ID formula, yeah, stuck to unique ID, that's not what I want. I actually want this to use common sense ID. Yeah. I want it to take the customer name and clean it up, get rid of spaces, do all the special stuff. But I want the ID of the customer to be the ID, to be the name of the customer. Just kind of makes it easier when you're in your database and you're trying to track something down. It's kind of nice having a sensible ID value at some point in your hierarchy, so you can at least get like a touchstone, you know what I mean? Like it's a grounding point where you can be like, okay, it's at least on this customer. Okay, so I've got a customer table. Everything's done for me. Beauty of auto tables. Let's add customer products. Okay. Customer products. So the customer link needs to be a reference to the customers table. I'm going to make it as a part of that. Customer product needs to be a reference to the product table. Right? And then the product name, we'll just make this text. Yes. Make this required. We have an image, whatever, description, whatever, barcode, whatever, product price. Yeah. Okay. So the thing that I need to do here, so I'll save this so it propagates. That way I can use my reference and the formula will validate. So what I need to do is like the idea is when I create a record in this table, I need to grab all of the details from whatever product you said that this is supposed to be for and pre-fill those into this customer product page, giving you the ability to change them if you want, right? Because maybe the description is different, maybe the image is different, maybe the barcode is different. And that's kind of like the whole point behind this sort of blueprint table is I've got details in one table that are generic details, right? Name, image, description, barcode. Like maybe it's just the name of the product, right? It could be as simple as just that. And then then I have this data collection table it uses the blueprint table for the details to populate records inside here. So what I want to do is I just want to pull over all of those details. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to create a dereference formula, and I'm just going to go to my product table and get, what do I need? The name. Copy it here. It's far easier sometimes, right? So that is the basic syntax of the formula that I need. So I'll select everything, copy that. I'm just going to drop that in each of these columns here, because they all need the basics of that syntax. And so this goes into the same principles of, like, if you're familiar with, there's some construction techniques of like you complete all of the jobs with the same tool that you have in your hand. So like if I have a hammer, do all of the jobs that require me to hammer something. If I have a screwdriver, do all of the jobs that require me to use the screwdriver before I switch tools, because it's generally, you can find efficiencies doing that. It's the same topic here. I've got that syntax formula on my clipboard. The only thing I need to change is the last little bit. So put that wherever you need to put it, because it gets 90% of everything done. Now, all I need to do is go in here and change the last little bit. So like this is supposed to be the barcode. So I'll just go to my sheet where I'm dereferencing information from. In this case, it's the products. Grab the name of the column that I want, throw it in the last bit over there. That one's done. I go in here. This is supposed to be the description. Come over here, grab the name of the column, drop it in there. Done. Go to the next one. This is supposed to be the image. Grab the name of the column. Done. Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's where I'm really trying to get to. Me, I'm a 2-click type of person where like it needs to be like, okay, we're done, cool. Like you can get that way. It's just about finding these efficiencies. All right, now when I create this record, I have to feed it, right? A customer and a product. That's it. So I'm gonna make those two required. Based on the product that I feed this table, right? So like when I create a record, I have to say it's this customer and this product. So when I'm feeding it a product, it's going to take that product and pull out the name, image, blah, 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 blah. And the only thing that's left is this customer specific column that I included for cost, right? And like, I'm not going to make that required. I'll leave that empty. It doesn't matter. So we got everything that we need in place. So now what I can do, so this, if we go back to our, where's it at? Here it is. So part 1 is generally finished now. I have my customer table. I have my customer products table. I've gone through and I've conformed all of my tables so that they are reference connected together. They have dereferences. You know, you could go through and finish rounding this off more. Like these are all obviously system column names. So like if I wanted to show that column, I'd want to come over here and give this a nice name of customer. You know what I mean? And like I'd want this one to be product, and I'd want this one to be name. You get what I mean? Like this is the last little thing that you could do. You can go through. That's usually one of the last bits I do, is to fill those parts in to make it look nice. All right. Part 1 is finished. So part 2 then, what are we going to do? Now we're going to move on to actions. So we got to create some actions that say, we got a blueprint table, take whatever record is over there and copy the one record into that table over there. So that's the first thing we need to do. So if we go here and we go to behavior, make a new action, you got to keep in mind the context, right? So I'm executing the action from the context of the product, right? Because I'm saying this product, copy over there. So this is where it lives. The thing I need to do is I need to, where's it at? Add a new row to another table using values from this row. I'm adding it to the customer products table where the customer link equals, that's the more difficult thing to set. We'll get to that. Where the product is this product. So we just insert the key, right? And since I feed it the product, it's then going to get all the other details, so I don't need to fill those in here. All right, so the thing that I've got to do then is I've got to figure out how can I get this to know what customer I'm working with? Well, we did something very similar to this in the first part of this last segment, where we needed to execute an action on the last item added to an order, to the last, right. So what we're really saying here is like execute this for, because again, now there's a lot of assumptions that I'm kind of making here. And these are some of the things that you have to do when you're building your app, is you've got to make some assumptions of logic and process flow and how things are going to work. And like you just assume, right? And then you build all of that so that it works. The idea that I'm going with here is I've got a list of products, right? And then when I create a new customer, then I want the system to then say, cool, for that customer, create that for the last customer. Create a copy of this product for the last customer in the system, if you will, right? This is one of the most, this is the notorious, like I could simplify this by setting this customer link. This is the hard part inside this entire system, is how do you get that to populate with the right value so that it's the right value all the time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, notoriously difficult. This is where you have the difference between serial versus parallel. I'm trying to build this so it operates in parallel, right? So that I can kick off a server thing and the server will do all the work and create X number of records. But that means that I have to execute this action, the one that's making the copy. And so like, I'll give this a name here. So this is copy product to customer product, right? So in order for me to execute this action, it has to live on the product table, but I have to somehow get the context of what customer this is supposed to be executed for, right? But the problem you have is that it lives on the product table. What do? Like all of the details inside here, this is the product table, and the product table is not in any way connected to the customers. That's the whole point of this. I'm creating a system that says these are master blueprint records, these are customer specific ones, right? Okay, so the assumption I'm going to go with is I'm just going to execute this on the last customer in the system. So then like the idea is customer one, as soon as I create it, it'll copy them all over. And so like if I was working backwards, right? Like if I was establishing this system after I had already implemented a whole bunch of customer records or a whole bunch of customers already, then the thing that you got to do there is you got to go through and you got to backfill all of this data, because you can't run this action because it's only like forward moving, if you will. There are other ways that you can do this. They're many and varied, right?
Where are you going? Another way. Always another way.
Many and varied, always. So the thing that I'll do is, in the future, I'll come up with some other videos that show how to kind of take this bit and expand it in a certain direction. Like, I want to do this with that. Okay, you can go that way. And then I want to do this. Okay, you can go that way with it. That's actually kind of the idea of the a la carte learning that I'm putting together on my new website, is that you want to know how to do one specific thing. So instead of having to buy all of it, you can just buy the one specific thing, and that'll start you on that trajectory. Okay, so moving forward with the assumption that I'm going to execute this on the last customer that was entered into the system. If I go back to my action, and here we go. So the customer that I need to do, what I can do is I can just say index for me, go back to my tables, all of my customers, and the customer IDs, and give me count, right? This bit. Count the number of customers. Same thing that I did in the last video, right? Where I say, hey, count how many is over there and give me the last one on the list. Same thing. So I'm doing that over here. There we go. To grab the last customer inside the system. Now, again, you have to make some assumptions on how people are going to use your system, you have to make decisions about where somebody can create a record. Like, so can they create the child record when they're looking at the main detail view of the child record? Or can they only create child records when they're looking at the parent detail view with the inline view? Is that the only, or do you not want them to be able to create them there and only, see what I mean? So it's like, you've got to make some decisions about how do you want your functionality in your app to work, like moving forward. Like, okay, I'm going to lock this down so that they can only do this here and only these people can do it. And like, put that in your head and then just think about like, okay, that's going to be in place in the future. And so that won't happen. I won't have problems with these, you know, but you got to kind of project that ahead while you're building, right? So when I execute this copy product to customer product action, it's going to say, cool, grab the last customer in the customer table and then create this product for that customer. Now we could get a little more advanced, right? I think I will. Get a little more advanced. We can do something to where it could be like, okay, if I go and I get this formula here, right? So this grabs for me the last customer in the table, right? That grabs the ID from the customer. Okay, well, you know, the thing I could grab, if I go to the customer table, the thing that I could grab is this list of customer products. Yeah, man. So like, I could grab this instead of the customer ID. So if I put that there, what's happening here is it's going to say, cool, go to the customers table and grab for me the value inside that column, which is a comma separated list. So it's going to grab the last one, customers, funny. And what I need to do now is I need to so the problem you'll have with this setup is I'm grabbing this syntax, it's a dense thing. This syntax right here, this little part, just this bit right here, that is a list of lists. And so when I pull the index of that, when I pull and use index like this, it'll get me the list. But most of the time, it's not in a list form. It's actually in a text string form. So you have to format it first. So the thing that you do, what I usually do is I go the long way, concatenate. So wrap the whole thing in a concatenate. That turns it into a legit text value. Now I know everything that I pull with that index is 100% a string, right? Okay, and then with that, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this in a split. So I'm going to split that giant thing, and I want to split it by space, comma, space, which is the default separator used by the system when I'm concatenating out a list. So that gives me the list of related customer products for the last customer in the table as an actual list. Okay. Yeah. And so this needs to be a yes, no. So this is now that, all of that, you can think about this as that whole bit of formula is going to turn into a list of, okay, we got to derivative list this. It's going to turn into a list of all of the IDs of the child records. Okay, so that's part of what we need, but we actually don't need the IDs of the child records. We actually need the products from those child records. So just one extra step to throw inside here. We need to create a derivative list. And this is where list dereferences comes into play. And so if I go to my customers and I look down here, I've got this related customer products. So this is the list of the IDs for the customer product records. It's the IDs. It's not the product ID. It's the ID of the record. Okay, those are different. If I need the product from this, I need to get it out. That's what I'm going to do right now. And that's where list dereferences come into play. So I'm going to copy the name of that column. Come here. I'm going to create a new column where I say, go for this list of customer products, list for me the product. And when you're doing a list dereference, that's what this is called. You don't do the dot in the middle. You do the dot when it's a single thing. When it's a list, you don't. And so now this is a derivative list of all of the products. You can see the system picked up that this was a reference to the products table. So I'm going to call this customer, I'm going to call this created customer products, right? I'm going to hide this because I don't need to see it. I'm going to save it. Okay. This list is a derivative from this one where whatever customer products are created, this column now contains a list of the actual product IDs used. Okay. Now, if I go back to my formula that we were working on, that kind of broke, it's broken right now. I come inside here, right? So instead of pulling the related customer products, what I really want to do is I want to pull that column that I just made. I want to pull this one. It's a list too, but it's a different list. This is the list of the actual products. So if I put this inside there like that, okay, now all of that you can think about this now, is that all of that formula bit turns into a list of products for the last customer in the customer table. Okay. So it's the list of products that were created for that customer. So now what I can do is I can just say in this so you got to remember the context of this action is the product table. So all of these columns listed here are the product columns. So the key is the product key, which, oops, didn't need two of them, which this list is a list of the products. You with me so far? Right? So in that product key, the list of all of the products from the last customer in the table. Boom. So not, and wrap that in a not. So this action should fire off when this is not inside the customer's created products. Okay. That should help prevent duplicates. I'm betting that formula probably needs to be a little hardened a little more to prevent duplicates. Another video. So I have my master product copying action, if you will, with theoretically some logic on it so that it doesn't do duplicates. So now the idea is if we go back to our list of what we got to do, right? So we're in part 2. We just did number 3. So now that we've got that, now we need to do number 4, where we need to create a ref action to create a copy of all of the products. So this is the action that creates the copy. We now need to execute this on all of our products. How do we do it? Come up here, we make a new action. Now, this action needs to live on the customer table, right? Because the idea is, again, like I'm coming up with assumptions of functionality and assumptions of interaction. The idea is they're gonna go into the customer form, add a name, save, and when it saves, I want it to create all of these products, right? So it's on the customer table that I need to kick things off. So that's where the action has to live. And so what I'm saying is on the customers table, I want to execute an action on a set of rows. I want to execute the action. The table that I want to execute on is the product table. The rows that I want to do is all of the rows. So I go here to products, grab the product table name, put it there, come in here, grab the key. So that right there gives me a list of every product key in the product table. So on all of the products, execute copy to customer product, right? And then the idea is This action is going to add the product to whatever customer was the last one, right? So it's kicked off from the customer to create them all. So this will be ref new copy products for customer, right? Don't need to see it. I don't need to see it. Don't need to see it. Cool. Now what I want to do is I want to execute this action when a user saves the customer form. So when I'm in here and I say, I don't even have a customers table. We'll put it up in the menu and we'll call it customers, right? Okay. Save it so it propagates. So the idea is when somebody comes into the system and they go to customers and they add somebody inside here, I need to hide this. I need to hide this inside the form, right? And so like I've got this. I'm gonna snip it here, I believe. Nope, I don't. All right, I have it on my macro keyboard. And we'll just do that. Right? See how fun the macro keyboard is? That's what that's for. So don't show that inside the form. So this is going to go away, and the only thing that's left is the person has to enter the customer name. Now, when I save this form, that's the idea. When I save this form, I want that action to kick off on all the products and create them for this guy, right? So on this form, so I come down here to the form view, come down here to the event action, and I say ref new, do that. Now theoretically, right? So I didn't put any kind of logic on when this action should run on the customer form. So theoretically, every time somebody goes through this form, it's going to kick off this action. Now I did put logic on the actual copy action that says don't run for this product if that product is inside the list of products for the last customer. I'm not sure how well that's going to work with efficiencies. All right, now I got that in place. I have it saved, so it'll propagate through the system. So let's give this a shot. Let's give this a shot, see if it works. So I'm going to go to customers. I'm going to create a customer. I call this Twitch West. Yeah, and then there you go. See, when I did it, it executed 21 updates. So this goes back to the problem that I think it was Dr. Arthur. I don't remember. The YouTube question that I had about looping with forms, looping with actions, right? The problem that he had was that now that it does what I needed to do and it makes all the things, now it takes forever to sync, just like what you had to sit through right there, right? How do you solve that? Okay, well, I built mine. I didn't use looping. I built mine to run in parallel. And so I can instead of executing that action on the form save event, instead what I can do is I can create an automation that says, cool, run that when we make a new record, right? And then that way you actually don't ever have the problem of what I was talking about just a couple of minutes ago about when somebody comes into the forms and saves it again, it's going to kick that off again. You don't have that because now automation is taking care of that because it only runs the first time when you add a record to the table. So what do? Okay. Come in here and we say go back to the form, right? And remove that action from the form, save event. So this just goes back to auto so that when I save the form, it just saves the form. Cool. All right. The thing you got to do now is you got to go to automation, create a new automation. And I'm going to say this, copy products to customer products, right? And then the event is a new customer record. And if I wait for that, see, it'll usually catch what I said and fill it in right. So adds only to the customer. Perfect. So when I create a new customer record, what do I want to do? Copy products, right? And this is where I want to run a data action. And the action is ref new copy products. Just like that. Now this is going to do the same thing that I had it do the first time, like when I went through and I created that customer, right? It's going to do the same thing, where it's going to create all the products over, but now it's going to do it through automation. And so instead of having to sit through all however many syncs to get pushed into the system, now I only got to sit for one. But there is one caveat, however you say it. There's one downside to this. You have to wait for the server to give you the results, because now all of those records, they're not being created on the device, they're being created by the server, which means in order for me to get the data that's being created, I have to wait for the server to finish, and I have to wait for the server to give it back to me. That's kind of the key. I have to wait for the server to give it back to me. So that's where, like, when you're dealing with, oh, I need to take this blueprint table and make a bunch of things over here, that's where, like, there's a whole bunch of things you got to take into consideration on how you're going to go forward with accomplishing the blueprint copy, right? Because you do it client side, you have to wait for all of the syncs, but that means that the person can keep moving forward on the device, because my device has all of those records. So if I'm trying to build a user interface where, like, the user needs to be able to keep moving forward, then I got to do everything either with looping or, it's all going to be done client side. But if it's not something like that, to where I don't need to just keep moving forward, I can throw that inside an automation. And the thing I usually do is I'll throw a force sync right in there, because the sync will kick everything off a little faster and it's just a little quicker. Plus you have there's the screen wipes to where it's showing a loading screen, and then it comes back, and when it comes back, you can see all the details. It's kind of like a little hack of the system. So what I'll do is, let's set up the automation, right? So that's actually part 3. Part 3 of getting this system to work is then executing all of this stuff through automation. You first, though, in order to get to this point, you have to first build everything inside your system. Like, you have to, in order for an automation to do its thing, you can build things inside automation. That's the thing. But it's usually easier, it's more streamlined, it's more straightforward of a build process if you build everything using actions. Because your automation is just using your actions. It's just automating what it does over there. The point being, like, you build out the system so that a person can manually go inside the app. They can go, like, click, 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 get to a record, click a button that does the thing that you need it to do, right? When you get to that point where a person can physically, manually get to the thing and push the button and it does what it's supposed to do, okay, that's when then you move on to, okay, I'm now going to create a bot that takes everything that I need to do and it automates all of that, right? But I already have all of the pieces already in place. They all already work. See what I mean? Like, generally, it's a lot simpler system to do it all over there. That's why I have listed here as part 3, automation. You take what you just did and automate it. Let's do it. So I have this action that I want to run. I go back to my behavior, right? So this action that runs when a new record is added to the Custmr table. Okay, so that's the part that you can think about that as like part 1. That's the thing that's going to create all the records. Now I want to kind of speed up the interface and do a force sync inside there. So that's nothing to do with automation. That everything to do over here. And so the idea is, if I go here, right? Okay, so now if I look at this product, if I looked at this Custmr, you can see a list of all the products. Yay. So the idea is, like, when I'm here, I enter in something, I hit save, it's going to force sync, and then I want to drop the user in the detail view of the record they just made. So I need the name of the view. I need an action to take me there, right? So first get the name of the place you want to go. Copy that, then go to behavior, create the action on the level that you need it to be. So I'm on the Custmr table and I want to go to another view within this app, and I'm trying to link, you know what, I'm going to use my thing. I'm trying to link to row, customer details. Yes. You see how fun that macro keyboard is? And now all I got to do is say, what ID do I need to go, and put it in the ID place. I'm talking about. That's going to take me to the detail view of the customer record. Okay. So this is a sync customers, and I'll throw, I'm gonna throw the name of the view in here. Sync customers and like customer detail, because that's where we go, right? I don't need to see this, don't need to see it, needs to go away, hide, cool. Okay, so now I've got this action that runs through automation, and I've got this one that I want to run when I close the form. So I can go back to my customer's form and say sync customers. So when I save this, it kicks off a sync, which then drops me into the customer detail, which will look like this. Because when I add the record, it's going to kick off the automation that's going to copy all of the items, all of the products into the customer product table. So let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. So if I go to, so we've got 20 products, okay? So if I go to a new customer and I say, yep, I want to create a new customer for Matt, hit save, didn't kick off the sync. Okay, why didn't it kick off the sync? Let's go. Now you see it's waiting and there's no customer products. As soon as this finishes, and then you see it's taking a little while. Now it's doing one more background. There it is. Like they're there. It's just, that's why I want to kick off the sync, because then it's not like, well, what's going on? What's happening? I thought I did the thing. Why didn't I do you get rid of all of that sort of cognitive dissonance that your users go through when you just put a force sync in there. Why didn't it kick off? So here in the form, sync customers detail, right? And sync customers detail true. Link to row. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't put the force sync stuff on there. I got that on here. There we go. Duh. Gotta put the code in order for the force sync to work. My bad. Oh, it's too funny. So I want to delete. I'll just make another one. So yeah, I have to, yeah. So this will be Dale. Hey Dale, thanks for joining, buddy. Appreciate it. Hey, we got a force sync. You see that works? Whoop, whoop. And bam, we're looking at customer Dale and all of Dale's products. This is what I'm talking about, right? And so now it's just a matter of like going through and cleaning up your views and making things look nice and rounding off some of the hard edges. Since this is a sample app, I'm going to go through and add some instructional bits that say this is how this thing was done, and drop a link to this live stream section where I went over this. Basically took me, I'm not sure when I started doing this. It was after 11, I think. So it took me maybe 50-ish minutes to do this. But that's with me talking about a lot of stuff in between. Realistically, creating a system like this is pretty straightforward. The hardest thing to tackle is how do you connect the child records to the right parent? That can become increasingly difficult to do. The way that I did it was I just assumed that we're just gonna run on the last customer that you made, and that's just how it works. If you weren't gonna go that way and you wanted to build a system that was more robust, if you will, right? It's a process in order to do that. It's not hard. Like generally speaking, all of these things that you have to do inside of AppSheet, they're not hard. It's just a series. It's like a collection of a whole bunch of little things. It's like, oh, well, I need this column and I need this column that depends on that column. And then I need this action to look at that column. And then I need this action to only run based on something inside a slice over there. In order for the slice, I have to have this column over here. But it's like each of the little things is actually a really easy little thing. It's just there's like 50 things all together, right? And so you're looking at it from the perspective of, oh my God, there's 50 things. Holy crap, what am I doing? This is too much. But in reality, it's just like, I just do one little thing here and one little thing there and one little thing there and one little thing there and whoop, there we go. Check it out. The hardest part, right, is what I was circling back now. The hardest part about all of this is how can I connect the right child record to the right parent record? And so if you're going to try and create a super robust system, the way to do that is you create like a flag on the parent. Now this is where if you have the standard starting template auto table, that has that little back section where it's got the update column, it's got the automation trigger and form type. That's where those 2 extra columns at the end really come into play. They're really, really helpful to have. They're just 2 extra text fields that aren't used for anything, that really just kind of give you space to where if you need to do something for that record, you have a space to do something. In this case, what you would do is you would use one of these extra columns to flag the parent. And so the idea then becomes for the whole system, right? Like when I save, so if we just kick off from the same thing that I'm doing here, where like when I save the form, it kicks off the thing. Okay, so like when I save the form, I would need to flag the parent. I need to isolate that parent in a slice. And the slice is like the processing customer, right? And so then the idea is that like I literally have a flag that I set a value that says processing or whatever, right? And so then I have a slice that holds that. And then now, because I have a slice holding a single record, it's essentially a global variable, right? And so then I can just base anything that I need to do off of that. Now I've got it available anywhere that it needs to pull. And so instead of doing the thing that I did here, where when I, in this ref new action, when I'm actually creating the copy, right? So if I go and I look at this copy product one, that's the actual one I need to look at. Where's it at? Products, copy, here we are. So instead of doing something like this, where I just say, well, just grab for me the last customer in the list, right? Instead of doing that, I would change that to that slice that I would make. So the idea is I flag the customer and then flag the customer, hold that into a slice, and then anytime that I need to connect something to that, there you go. And the last piece of the puzzle is you just have to remember to clear the flag of the parent so that that slice of the processing customer is always empty except for when it's doing something. And so like it's all executed crazy fast. Like your user wouldn't even notice this, to be honest with you. I've built systems to where it's like this, to where you go into a form and when you come back, it did a whole bunch of stuff, and like it's lightning fast like that. Anyways, so that is everything that I got for you guys today. There's no questions inside the chat. It's cool that you haven't been missing the streams, Dale. I just started, mate. This is number 2. Looking to keep continuing to do these in the future. And the quality and the content is really entirely driven by you guys. Because if I don't have any updates to push out there to talk about in the beginning, and AppSheet hasn't done any new releases or anything, such as the case this week, there's the only thing that's going to populate this live stream is comments from YouTube videos, comments in the live stream, and anything that anybody else submitted for AppSheet news. And then the last bit, which is Patreon questions. So it's entirely driven by you guys, really. So I do appreciate it. Thank you for sticking around. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'm so dangerously close to 1,000 subscribers. Bro, I can't wait. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something to celebrate 1,000 subscribers because it's taken me forever to get here. Because I don't pay for advertising. I don't and I don't spend a lot of time sharing my videos. So if you really want to show your love, like, subscribe, do all of that, share the video. Or share any of my videos, because I don't populate my videos out in the world very much. That's like part of the process that I just don't do. I don't think about very much. And so all of this growth for my channel has been really, really slow, really holistic. A lot of you guys have been with me for years. I greatly appreciate that. Anyways, yeah, that's all I got for you. See you in the community, y'all.